Mics are on.
All right, as we're starting the meeting, can anyone who's not speaking put their mute on until they're ready to speak, please? The City of Riverbank regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board meetings are now in session. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. It is 6 p.m. We're doing via teleconference or virtual platform only. No public location is for this meeting. This meeting will be held in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order, November 29-20, regarding the open meeting requirements. Directions to join us on the Zoom platform are provided on the last page of the agenda, which is available at the city website at www.riverbank.org. Anyone wishing to make comment on any agenda item by email can begin to mail comments right now to the city clerk at riverbank.org. Please indicate the item number in the subject line. Those of you who join the meeting on Zoom may use the raise hand feature, or if you join us by phone, dial *9, which informs the city clerk that you wish to speak when I open agenda items for public comment. You will have 3 minutes to state your comments. For live viewing of this meeting, it is televised on Charter Government Channel 2, AT&T Uverse Government Channel 99, by live streaming on YouTube, or by joining us on Zoom. The link information is provided on the last page of the agenda. If you're joining us by YouTube Live, please be aware that high internet connectivity may cause a delay of the meeting by 1 to 4 minutes. At this time, we'll do the flag salute. Cal Campbell, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? And please unmute. All right. Darlene Barbara Martinez, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Council Authority Member District 4, Darlene Barbara Martinez.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 3, Cal Campbell.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 2, Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Luis Uribe.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda tonight. At this time, Council Authority members or staff who have direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare the conflict at this time.
This is Councilmember Darlene Barbara Martinez, and I have a conflict of interest with item 5.1E.
I too have a conflict of interest on item 5.1E. Item 2, at this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Under state laws, matter presented during public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. If you are joining us on Zoom, use your raise hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. Let's wait a moment for delayed time. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
I do not see anyone wanting to make a public comment.
All right, we're going to move on. Thank you, Annabelle. Item 3, consent calendar. Item 3A, waive readings. Item 3B, a resolution of the City Council authorizing the submittal of an application to the California State Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under SB 2 Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, and if selected, the execution of a standard agreement, any amendments thereto, and any related documents necessary to participate in the program. Item 3C, a resolution authorizing the application for and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds. Are there any council comments or questions or wishing to pull any item? Seeing none. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
There's no one wishing to speak.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar items as presented?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll make a motion. We approve the consent calendar.
Councilmember Darlene Barber Martinez, and I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Uribe and a second by Councilmember Barber Martinez. Roll call, please.
Council Authority members, Barber Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 4, unfinished business. Item 4.1, second reading by title only and adoption of proposed ordinance number 2020-008, approving a development agreement by and between the City of Riverbank and Canna Mart, LLC, a California limited liability corporation doing business as Canna Mart.
This is the second reading of Ordinance 2020-008, a development agreement, as you stated, between Canna Mart and the City of Riverbank. Our planning and building manager, Donna Kenny, gave the report. There are no changes to the project or the development agreement from the first reading. Again, this project is for a retail cannabis dispensary at 2667 Patterson Road. We went through in detail at the last meeting the specifics of the development agreement, and Donna is on the line and can address any questions that you might have at this.
All right, I know that there were some concerns about this and the last time it was presented. So for the City Council, are there any council comments or questions?
I just have a question about, I know that we briefly at our last meeting discussed the traffic around that corner, and did we do any kind of traffic studies to see just how busy it actually is? I know that there is one light for three different, I guess 4-way traffic, but I just have a concern about the traffic in that area. That's all.
Yeah, so one of the things to keep in mind is that the actual, this is a vacant property, as we've talked about. The building portion of this site will have to go through a site design review with the Planning Commission, which is a totally separate process where they'll have to look at all of those sort of just general land use issues that they typically do during that process. From a general perspective, though, due to the size and our experience with our other dispensary up the road, Flavors, the amount of parking is generally comparable if you're counting the number of spaces that actually belong to Flavors. We know that sometimes those customers use other spaces in there, but the other component will be that this is again along a state highway, and so unlike Flavors, there'll be a process that when they develop the property, they'll have to go through with Caltrans and the City of Riverbank to show adequate access in and out and any kind of stacking concerns that engineers might have. So all of that stuff usually gets addressed.
I have a comment, Mayor. I had a citizen contact me regarding this this building. They were concerned that it looked like that it was going to be a distribution center, and I just want to let them know that this is not going to be a distribution center. The area that she was referring to is going to be used for their delivery area, for delivering to customers, just like our other sites do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Campbell?
No, I said what I needed to say at the last meeting. I'll just stand by that.
All right, thank you. All right, Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, we do have a public comment from someone with the phone number ending in 997. So I'm going to allow them to speak. Hello, you can speak now.
Hello?
Hello, yes?
Yeah,
You want to
okay, you
speak
can
to
hear me?
item 4.1?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
What
My
is your
number
name,
does,
please?
this is Evelyn. My number does not end in 997.
Okay.
I just have a question. I would like to get clarification, and it pertains to what Councilmember Fossey was just discussing. I asked for I made a record request before the Planning Commission, before last council meeting, before you voted on it. I got nothing until after the council meeting. What I got on that disc was the application for the dispensary, but it also contained a second application for the distribution center and the fact sheet for the distribution center. And it looks the application was made out also to the city, so it looks very much like there is going to be a distribution center there. And my question is, if you're saying it's not now, since they are licensed for distribution, do they have to come back, or are they just automatically go into distribution whenever they want to?
Hi, Evelyn. This is Sean. Good question. So the answer is no, it cannot be a distribution center. The city of the Riverbank Cannabis Ordinance and associated zoning details were very clear about distribution. We're talking when we're saying distribution, I want to be clear that what we mean is wholesale distribution, not delivery. But wholesale distribution and associated uses like manufacturing, things like that, have to be in districts that are zoned manufacturing. And Donna, please correct me if I'm missing any of the detail here, but essentially they don't have an allowance within the zoning code to perform any distribution in a wholesale capacity activities whatsoever at this location, and unless the zoning district changes, in which case I suppose they could reapply, but I don't see that happening. Donna, am I missing anything there?
No, you're correct, Sean. We are talking retail distribution, such as the other dispensaries have been recently allowed to do.
Thanks, Donna.
Evelyn, do you have any other comments?
No, that's it, because it does indicate in there that they are going to be repackaging and distributing, and they are licensed for it. So I just wanted to know if they're going to get to do it without coming back or what.
No, any like I said, any wholesale related manufacturing, commercial distribution type uses have to be in the manufacturing district. So the answer to that is no. Now, if we're talking about repackaging from like for a retail sale, for delivery or something, that's a different discussion. But if my understanding of the question is, can they run an industrial operation out of this building? And the answer is no.
No, I didn't say industrial. I said, can they repackage and distribute out of that building for either which way?
They're allowed to, from a retail perspective, they can deliver cannabis just like any of our other operations here in town have been allowed to do, but they cannot package in bulk and sell, wholesale out to other dispensaries. That is not the nature of this approval. It's only retail.
Okay.
One thing in addition to that is that they will have the ability to say, take an ounce of the flower and convert that to individual joints or cigarettes, because they do offer individuals like that for sale. So that also could be considered as part of a retail distribution.
Then they can repackage it like that and distribute it out to a different place to sell it. Different distributor down. That's
No.
Different distributors.
Hey, Donna, your internet's connection, I think, is Donna. Your internet connection is coming in really slow, so I'll handle that one. The answer is no. They cannot repackage and sell to other retail establishments. It's retail, meaning from the point of sale to a customer, not to another business to resell.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. That was really a good question on that. Annabelle, are there other public comments?
There is. We have Rod. It could be Rod Olson. It just says Rod, so I will allow this person to talk.
Rod, go ahead.
I'm
Hello,
trying
Rod, are you there?
Yes, I am. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Rod Olson, the consultant for the applicant. And the last person.
You're muted now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my apologies. So this is Rod Olson, consultant for the applicant. The person that did call in, we did submit something. It's a specific state license, and it's a different type of distribution license. And what it does, and look, we're amenable to do whatever the county, or not the county, the city would like us to do. What this license does, it allows the applicant to purchase cannabis in bulk, package it, and sell it as its own. The state license allows for this. Allows them to package cannabis, to purchase cannabis in bulk, repackage it under its own name, and sell it at its own establishments. So, for instance, Flavors has this type of license. They don't have it at their Riverbank facility, but they have it at their Ceres facility. So they receive cannabis in bulk, package it, and rebranded it as their own cannabis line, I guess you could say. It's kind of like Mayor. It would be your off-brand type, product that you would sell at your own store there. And what it does is it allows the retailer to have to compete, I guess you could say. So it's a state license. It allows them to, like I said, purchase it bulk, allow them to package it in their own brand, and then sell it at their own retail establishments. So this would allow them to sell this product at their other facility at Doctor's Choice in Modesto as well. Now, if the city doesn't want this, if it's not zoned for that, that's fine. We were under the impression that it was. When we spoke to staff, they said that put the distribution application in as well. And so we disclosed in our application that this is what we were seeking, this type of license through the state. So you tell us how you'd like us to proceed if we can or can't. But it was accurate. That was part of our application.
Yeah, but what I think is being mixed up here a little bit is the disparity and difference between packaging your own type of product and selling it at your own retail locations, and what is a traditional distribution model, which we actually also have here in Riverbank separately, which is an industrial type use that is intended to bring in bulk product, package it and brand it in many different ways, and sell it wholesale to other independent dispensaries, which is an industrial type use.
Okay. Just to comment on, I don't know if the state license that we're seeking makes a distinction. So if that's what you would like us to do, then you probably need to limit that scope. And so that's just kind of, I don't want to leave this meeting thinking we're doing something and the state allowing us to do something that you don't condone, if that makes sense. So anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
When they repackage it, only to sell as their product there on the premises. That's fine with me because it lets them compete. What I don't want to see is if they're repackaging it and then all of a sudden selling a big bunch of their product to another dispensary, because then I think we cross the line there.
Okay. And sir, that I think the state license allows them to do that. And what I'm saying is, if that's not what the city would like, then I would think that you would need to tell us and basically put that in the agreement. Look, you can repackage your own stuff. We're fine with you doing that. Hopefully, you would be fine with them taking it over to their facility at Doctor's Choice as well, and sell it there. If not, and then just limit it there. I think we would need some wording and some language for you to do that for us.
Vice Mayor.
Okay,
I got a couple questions, Rod.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are not currently doing that at the Modesto location, correct, on Yosemite?
Correct. They do not have a distribution license at that facility.
Okay, and if you guys are, and if just hypothetically, if you guys are allowed to do that here in Riverbank, so could you guys sell to your location in Yosemite, I guess as a loophole?
No, it's not a loophole.
Okay.
It's not a loophole. Matter of fact, Flavors is doing it now. I mean, that's what Flavors does. They just do it. They do it from their series location. So all this does is, and the mayor will know this from being in retail, it allows you to compete. It allows you to have a generic product per se, and be able to compete at that lower level, that lower price level.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's what this is allowing them to do. Now I'm being told by the applicant all they want to do. See, here's the problem. All they want to do.
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
This is Mayor. Luis, this is a transfer between their own establishments. Your store does it, my store does it. It's a transfer between one store to another. It is not a redistribution out to other outside entities. It's within their organization. If they're going to have a total of 3 dispensaries, they'll package it and they will transfer it to the other 2 entities. And that's only what they're allowed to do.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mayor.
And Mayor, just to clarify, that is correct. That's exactly what the applicant wants to do. The state license allows them to do much more than that. And what I'm saying is the city might be in their best interest to be very specific as to what you would like us to do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we're not zoned for that. And you're not going to be allowed to do that.
Yeah, fine.
You have to consider the land use.
Okay, perfect.
Right, and I think that's exactly right. Again, the distinction here, to be very clear, is that it's one thing to transfer product between, the same store that are owned by the same people. That makes total sense. It's quite another to have an operation that is, again, industrial in nature, meaning you're selling wholesale to many different locations. That is not appropriate for this thing. It is not allowed. So regardless of whether or not the state license may allow that, the local development agreement will not. and it's not in here. I just actually thumbed through to make sure that there's no allowance for that. So to answer Evelyn's earlier question, the traditional distribution, which I think she was getting to, it is not an allowance under this development agreement or the zoning code or.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, according to what Rod said, the state a license allows them to do that. Do we need to put something in there to say that in our agreement, it can only be distributed to their facilities?
Yeah, I mean, you could, but the bottom line is if you read through the development agreement, it's very clear about what their local allowances are. And in fact, when they make their applications to the state for their various licenses, we do get the opportunity to discuss what local approvals have been given, and we can be very clear that we are not authorizing any sort of wholesale distribution facility at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Annabelle, are there any other public comments?
I have a phone number. I'm wondering, let's see, there's another hand up. I don't know if it's Evelyn wanted to speak again. Do you want me to check?
Let's check, and it has to be on the same topic.
Okay. Hello, you're unmuted. Who's speaking?
It's Evelyn. I just have something real quick. I'm not muted.
I know, you're unmuted.
Now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. You want me to talk now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I just one more. Okay, just have one quick comment. Regardless of whether it's going to be distributed to their place or to another place, regardless of the fact that they're going to bring stuff in from somewhere else and reprocess it to send it out, regardless of all that, that information was not available at the public hearing for the Planning Commission. It was not available at the public hearing for the council. It's not been made available to the public. And I think that's very important that it should have been made available before you held the public hearings. So I'm really questioning whether or not you can do this tonight without making the public aware of it. Thank you.
That is like creating an issue where there is none. Right now, that is not a stated part of their business, and it will not be allowed. We can't. That's what it is. So, okay, thank you again for your input, Edwin. I'd like to hear legal. Are we correct on that? Legal, that's you, Tom.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor and Council, that's why we have public hearings. So I don't know what else to say.
Okay, thank you. All right, any additional comments, Annabelle?
There are no additional comments.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 2020-008?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll make a motion. We approve item 4.1.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve by Vice Mayor Uribe and a second by Councilmember Campbell. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Annabelle and Council. Item 5.1. Two resolutions for each landscape and lighting district to 1, amend and or approve engineer's report and levy and collection of annual assessments related thereto for fiscal year 2020-2021, and 2, ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments for fiscal year 2020-2021. Item 5.1-alpha, Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5.1-bravo, Ridgewood Place Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5-1.1-Charlie, River Cove Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5-1.1-Delta, Sierra Vista Estates Landscaping and Lighting District. We will receive the presentation on all of these items first, followed by comments, council comments or questions. Afterwards, we'll go back to each item individually to conduct this public hearing vote.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Our Development Services Administration Manager, there she is. She just popped up on my screen. Kathleen, who we haven't seen for a little while because of these Zoom meetings, but will be back with us now, is going to give the reports on all of these many reports that
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. It's great to be back and seeing all of you. This is our annual approval that we need to do for the engineers assessments. And I'm looking for my PowerPoint. I thought I shared it with Annabelle. There we go. Can everyone see that and hear me?
We can, Kathleen.
Okay, thank you. So this is for the engineers' reports for fiscal year 2021. So consolidated district annual parcel assessments. We have Courtney Estates, South Bend, Elmwood Estates, Keontae, Sterling Ridge, and Eastwood Estates. The only increase will be for South Bend. We have an increase of $5.22 a year. That's to, we have a lot of matured landscaping, some irrigation equipment that needs to be replaced, and we need to start building up some of our reserve. Sorry about that. Ridgewood Place District Annual Assessment, 8560, the increase of $5.60. River Cove, there's no change to that assessment. Sierra Vista Estates, there's no change to that assessment. So tonight we're asking that council approve fiscal year 2021 engineer report and order the levy and collection of annual assessments for Consolidated, Ridgewood Place, River Cove, and Sierra Vista Estates.
Okay, Kathleen, thank you very much. Are there any council comments or questions on any of the landscaping and lighting district presented? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I'm going to open public hearing from item 5.1-alpha, Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District. I open the public hearing. Annabelle, do we have any public comments?
There's no one wishing to speak.
I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt resolution for item 5.1-alpha?
Councilmember Darlene Barber Martinez, I make motion that we approve item 5.1A.
This is Cindy Fossey, and I second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Darlene Barbara Martinez and second by Councilmember Cindy Fossey. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I open the public hearing for item 5.1-Bravo, Ridgewood Place Landscaping and Lighting District. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there is no one wishing to speak.
I am purposely delaying just in case you get something.
There are also no written comments received.
All right. I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for item 5.1-Bravo?
I move that Councilmember Campbell moves that we accept item 5.1B for Ridgewood Place Landscape and Lighting District.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez. And I second the motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Campbell and a second by Councilmember Barbara Martinez to approve the resolution. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I open the public hearing for item 5.1-Charlie, River Cove Landscaping and Lighting District. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there is no one wishing to speak and there are no written comments.
Well, then I will close the public hearing. That was too loud. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 5.1-Charlie?
I move that we adopt 5.1-C River Cove Landscaping and Lighting District. This is Councilmember Fossey.
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Fossey and a second by the Vice Mayor to approve item 5.1-Charlie. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I open the public hearing for item 5.1-Delta, Sierra Vista Estates Landscaping and Lighting District. Annabelle, are there any public comments or written comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for item 5.1-Delta?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll make a motion. We approve item 5.1D.
Councilmember Campbell, a second.
We have a motion to approve by the Vice Mayor and a second by Councilmember Campbell. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
At this time, Councilmember Barbara Martinez and I will recuse ourselves from consideration of the next item, 5.1-Echo, due to a conflict. Vice Mayor Uribe is given the gavel. Here you go. And will preside over the item. And I'm actually leaving. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mayor. And Annabelle, for the record, has the mayor and council member Barbara Martinez been placed in a waiting room to recuse them for this meeting?
Yes, I can confirm they are in a waiting room and cannot hear or see this meeting.
Thank you, Annabelle. Item 5.1E, two resolutions for the Crossroads Landscaping and Lighting District to amend and or approve the engineer's report and the levy and collection of annual assessments related thereto for fiscal year 2020-2021. and to order the levy and collection of annual assessments for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Staff report.
Thank you. So Crossroads District annual parcel assessments. We have a district benefit. We have Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 4. There's going to be an increase in each one of those. As you know, there's a lot of matured landscape in the Crossroads District, and irrigation equipment. We also want to bring some more capital improvements to some of the parks, so we want to make sure that we keep our reserves up on those districts. So it is recommended that council approve the fiscal year 2021 engineer reports and order the levy and collection of the annual assessments for the Crossroads Landscape and Lighting District.
Thank you, Kathleen. Are there any council comments or questions? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing for item 5.1E, Crossroads Landscaping and Lighting District. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Vice Mayor, there are no public comments.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for item 5.1E?
Councilmember Campbell will make a motion for item 5.1E, Crossroads Landscaping and Lighting District, to be accepted.
Councilmember Fosse will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Campbell and a second by Councilmember Fosse. Roll call.
Councilmembers Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. We will now wait to have the mayor and Councilmember Barbara Martinez join the meeting again. And Mayor O'Brien, I return the gavel.
Well, thank you. There it goes. All right. Item 5.2. Resolution for each storm drain maintenance district ordering the levy and assessments for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Item 5.2-alpha.
Can we have the city attorney mute their line, please?
I can't. It's not. I have to have. Well, I'm not sure it's me.
All right, I'll keep talking. There's still a little feedback. Anyway, item 5.2-alpha, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District number 2006-01, Heartland. Item 5.2-Bravo, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District number 05-01, Sterling Ridge. We will receive the presentations on both of these items first, followed by council's comments or questions. Afterwards, we will go to each item individually to conduct its public hearing and a vote.
Okay, City of Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District for fiscal year 2021. Annual assessments cover the maintenance and operations of storm drain facilities and improvements within the district. These district budgets are reviewed annually, and there's no increase in assessments for the 2021 fiscal year.
And is that the report in totality?
She's having trouble with her video, so.
Okay.
She might be trying to connect her video.
All right.
Kathleen, we can see. Can you see her PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's still up.
Okay. We just can't see you, Kathleen. But if you want to go ahead without being on video, you can still do that. Could have lost her.
While I said there was no changes to the agenda, I am going to move forward until we can get Kathleen reestablished. if that is okay with you, Annabelle. If it's not,
Okay.
we'll sit around and wait.
Let's see, what's our next item?
Item 5.3,
5.3.
first reading, introduction of proposed ordinance, amending section 120-61.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. We have something. We have movement. Oh, there we go.
You got it?
Okay, I got it. With the council's concurrence, we're going to move to item 5.3 and then return to
Okay.
item 5.2. Any objections? Hearing none or seeing no head shake. Item 5.3, first reading and introduction by a proposed ordinance amending section 120.61, penalties of chapter 120, cannabis regulations of title 11, business regulations, by repealing the section in its entirety and substituting it with a new section 120.61, penalties of the Riverbank Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was put together due to some real enforcement situations we've had with illegal grows of cannabis in Riverbank, and our feeling from a staff level that we really need more stiff penalties to dissuade this kind of behavior. Donna, I'm going to hand it over to you, but if we're having trouble with your audio again, I'll let you know and I'll take over the report. But Donna, are you there to give the report?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you sound good now, so go for it.
Good. Well, good evening, council members. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
We can't see your screen, Donna.
Okay, you can't see the PowerPoint?
No.
Okay. It's scrolling through, so I'm going to go back to the beginning and see what I can do about the button there. Okay. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to try. Well, my sharing screen, oh, there it is. It just appeared for a moment. Okay, let's try this again. How's that?
There you go.
All right. Let me get back to the beginning here.
That's it.
Okay. I lost my cursor, sorry. All right. So, this is an ordinance amendment to help with the enforcement of our cannabis. 20.61. What it really does is define the steps that staff can take to abate a situation after a neighbor has called in complaining about an outdoor cultivation. So currently, the code states that for the administrative penalty for each offense is $250. So if we show up to do a cannabis abatement because somebody has 100 plants in their backyard, the fine or the administrative penalty right now is only $250 for the whole grow. So what we'd like to do is change that to, instead of $250, $1,000 per plant plus $100 per plant every day that those plants remain. Currently, this is the code that the city of Patterson uses. My notes out here. It is exactly what they're using right now. And so it has been tested this year. They adopted this in 2019. It was the language was drafted by Church Well White. So in the city of Patterson in 2019, they had 20 illegal grows in their residential areas. And their code was a little bit different from us, where they could charge $250 per plant. So they could charge $250 per plant, while ours was $250 per incident. And then they would just go ahead and lien the property for those amounts. So since they adopted that change to their ordinance in 2020, they've only had 2 illegal grows. It seems to them like the word has gotten out that the city is really cracking down on it. They can charge $1,000 per plant, and just from those 2 illegal grows, and mind you, this is this is in residential areas. They're working right now on a little over $2 million in citations. Oops. I would also like to mention that although I didn't put this in the PowerPoint, besides that section D, which changes the penalties to per plant, there is a section E that allows the city to immediately abate any illegal structures that are on the site. And section F allows the citations to occur daily. Now, going back to the illegal structures, there are protections in that section for a landlord if this is a tenant doing an illegal grow. So, for example, if the landlord puts in the lease agreement that they can't grow there, or we know for sure that the landlord maybe is living in another city and doesn't know what the tenant has been doing. So there are some protections there for the landlord. It's not like we're just going to go in and lien their property, but we will work with them and to get the situation abated. I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Like I said, the language was drafted by Churchwell White. It is in use right now in the city of Patterson, and it has been reviewed by our Sheriff Ridenauer. And I haven't received any comments for this item.
The county is doing something similar in that their plans to do $1,000 per plant. I have no idea if they adopted it, but I'm sure that they will adopt it. It was something that the county approached me when we were talking tax sharing. Well, why don't you do something with us on $1,000 per plant for an illegal grow? I asked them to come forward first in tax sharing, then I'll go forward with this. But this is very much in line, I think, with what the county wants to do. And I think it is appropriate. We want to control the grows, especially in the residential area. We don't want to have it not only outdoor, but it should be also illegal indoor grows. And I believe that's what this is encompassing. The chief, you were involved in one of the busts, but it was more recently this year. We had a bust of over 390 pounds worth of marijuana, which would have consisted of close to 800 plants. Whether or not that 800 plants would have garnished us $800,000 is something that it's not the intent of us to collect money. The intent is to discourage action like this. So with that, are there any council comments or questions? I'm sorry, I jumped in there first.
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'd have to agree with you, Mayor. I think the current $250 fine for the whole offense is pocket change, and I think this increased fine per plant will be a deterrent. So I'm on board.
I also agree with the mayor and with Vice Mayor Uribe.
Okay, I'm going to open a public hearing on item 5.
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Darlene Barbara Martinez, and I wanted to just ask, have we seen an increase in illegal grows in the city?
I think the chief could speak a little to that, but the answer, at least from my seat, kind of getting briefed on it, is yes, because we had illegal grow. We've always had illegal grows, But what has been different about the more recent ones is the scale and size. Donna, I don't know if she mentioned it in her report, but we actually had a property here just outside the downtown that they were literally developing the property to grow cannabis on. They were going to build a building to do it, just right out in open. There was no hiding it or anything. And Chief, maybe you want to address any other ones that you're aware of?
Yeah, we also had one recently this year in a large residence, two-story residence, where they actually added square footage on the second story, and there was no one living in the residence. Instead, they made the whole residence an indoor grow house and several hundred plants inside that residence. And again, no one's living there. They're running illegal power through the residence. It's creating a fire hazard in these neighborhoods. It's unsafe building practices in there. The water usage is becoming a public nuisance for the community. And only having a $250 fine on that type of behavior is not a deterrent for the amount of money that their risk versus gain for them.
Thank you.
And Darlene, I would like to have the sheriff or the chief fly in the copter, fly around Riverbank, and just scope out the number of grows that are out there. Surrounding the city, there must be close to 40 illegal grows, and they're huge. And just trying to take it down is an undertaking when we have a shortage of personnel staff and higher priorities than the cannabis. But in fact, I might ask if I could fly in the copter, which I hate helicopters, go around and fly over the city as well as surrounding areas. But good point, Darlene. And we'll go from there. Annabelle, are there any public comments? Oh, wait a minute, excuse me. I open the public hearing for item 5.3, first reading and introduction of a proposed ordinance amending section 120-61, penalties of chapter 120. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there is no one wishing to speak and there are no emails received.
Okay. With that, we've had a lot of comments on this. We're going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the first reading and introduction of the proposed ordinance to conduct the second reading on July 28th, 2020?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. Go ahead, Darlene.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez, and I make a motion we approve item 5.3.
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Darlene Barbara Martinez and a second by Luis Uribe, Vice Mayor. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do we have item 5.2? Has Kathleen come alive again? All right, we are going to move to item 5.4 as we wait for Kathleen to come back. A resolution approving the final reports funded by the Department of Housing and Economic Development, HCD, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, over-the-counter grant number 16-CDBG-11211, accomplishments and final grant closeout.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be handling this for Melissa Holdaway this evening. As council probably is aware, a number of years ago, the city applied for an over-the-counter grant with Housing and Community Development, which was an economic development grant, the purpose of which is to create jobs. And this was all related to a tenant at the LRA, Repsco, who was coming into the plant at the time and needed some changes made to infrastructure to accommodate their business. At the time, the proposed job count was 24 full-time equivalent jobs, which would have provided about $839,000 in grant assistance, or about roughly $35,000 per job. So over the next couple of years, the city and LRA worked on a number of projects out at the LRA, which are detailed in your staff report. In July of 2018, the city asked Housing and Community Development for a scope reduction as the actual cost for the electrical work, which really was kind of key project out there, was certainly the most expensive one. It was related to a very, very old transformer that needed to be upgraded. Had been increased significantly, and so we removed a couple of the items, parking lot upgrades and some energy efficient lighting, out of the project because we wanted to focus on the main infrastructure upgrades that were immediately necessary for REPSCO and their job growth. And then again, in February of 2019, we went back to HCD for a further scope reduction to include activity one, which is rest and rehabilitation, as the total cost for the it was essentially two projects. One was replace oil circuit breakers in the main transformer area, phase 2, and then upgrade electrical infrastructure in the main transformer along an existing 20-foot wide transmission line corridor along building 1 and building 2. That work was completed. And we also were able to do a loading dock upgrade, which served that and other tenants as well. And then in accordance with the city's program income reuse agreement, program income funds were required to be expended prior to actual grant funds being used. And program income, just to remind everyone, is state-related money under these grant programs that has been collected by the city over the years through monies that had been previous grants. And so basically what the state says is, we want you to use those program income dollars before you get to the grant dollars. So to that end, we expended a total of $293,000, approximately $293,000 from activity delivery and $330,000 in grant funding. The primary purpose of this closeout report is to close out this grant, since we've now reached the sort of end of the 3-year period. We will be disencumbering the remaining balance and sending, well, it's not appropriate to say sending back $508,000, because Marisol, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have to draw down those funds. But essentially, we're telling them we've completed what we can out of the project based on the job counts that are available, and therefore are closing out this grant at this time. I will say that we are always keeping an eye out for new opportunities. So as new businesses come into the LRA, we may have an opportunity to reapply for some more funds to serve those businesses that will be bringing in new jobs. But essentially, this will close out the grant, and those projects have been completed and serve as a good improvement to the plan. And maybe answer questions you may have.
Are there any council comments or questions? Sean, I have one, and I know the answer to it, but I want to make sure it's public. Of the amount that we should have received, but we are returning, what is the percentage of that grant? I'm asking you to do math.
Yeah, I'm thumbing through this as we discuss.
Anyway, REPSCO has
about 60%.
Yes.
Yeah, roughly 60%.
So we've been asked many times by this company to give them breaks, and we have. And it just seems like what they said they were going to do, they did not. And anytime they did not, they just say it is the city's fault. This right now is something that is, we've been over backwards trying to get, and we did not receive the appropriate effort, in my opinion.
But, and Mayor, just to add on to that comment, I do think it's important that it be very clear that the city spent in grant and PI, program income funds, approximately $630,000 on LRA upgrades to accommodate this business. I mean, it's not, quarters. This is a lot of money.
No, it is. It is a lot of money, and although the upgrades were needed, it was not truly appreciated. Okay. Any additional public comments? I mean, not public, council comments. I open public hearing for item 5.4. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll make a motion. We approve item 5.4.
Councilmember Campbell, I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve by Vice Mayor Uribe and a second by Councilmember Campbell. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Kathleen, are you with us?
I am.
Very good. I'm not going to ask you what happened. Okay, so you're at item 5.2, a resolution for each storm drain maintenance district ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 20 and 21. Item 5.2A, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District 2006-01 Heartlands, and item 5.2-Bravo, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District number 0501 Sterling Ridge. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council again. City of Riverbank Stormwater Maintenance Districts for fiscal year 2021. Annual assessments cover maintenance and operations of the storm drain facilities and improvements within the district. There's no increases. We have healthy reserves for both of these storm drain districts. The current Sterling Ridge Storm Drain District is 6522 and Heartlands is 3762. So at this time, we're asking council to approve the engineer's reports for 2021 and assess in the intent to levy and collect annual assessments within the storm drain districts. For Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District Heartlands and Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District Sterling Ridge.
Are there any questions from Kathleen, for Kathleen? Kathleen, what would it cost each property owner if we went to a storm drain system throughout this city?
It depends on how many individuals are paying into it. Basically, like some of the districts you'll see that you saw earlier with the maintenance districts, if you have a small area where maybe only 50 homes are paying, if they're going to pay a lot more. If you have, like over in Crossroads, you have thousands of homes, so therefore each individual is paying less because there's more people paying into that fund. So it just depends on how we broke up the districts and probably, figured out an assessment.
I know I want to do a storm drain region for Riverbank. And if we involve the entire population, we could meet our MS4 requirements a lot sooner. Right now, we're not meeting them all.
Right.
And we could be fined as a city $25,000 a day for a violation for each day. And it can also depend upon what toxins are being discharged. And that could be $25,000 a day per toxin. And I don't want to see the city go broke because we're being very narrow in who's going to pay for it and what they're going to do, and not really do the rest for the city. I think and I'm speaking for Richard O'Brien, not for the council, but I think we need to move forward on some type of storm water district for the entire city and go for a 218 process and try to get that captured before we start losing general fund money for things that everybody should be paying. For example, there are people with hard surfaces, oil on their driveways, going right down into the storm drains and going out to the sea, essentially. So that's my 2 cents worth. Before I open it up, Council, you have comments?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. Yeah, I actually like that idea of consolidating all the districts, going citywide. The more houses, I'm assuming you're going to be paying less if there's more in the pot. So I like the idea. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
I think I would like to see a study done so we know exactly where we're going with it as a first step, and then we can introduce it to the public to let them know what's going on.
Okay.
I agree. That's something that we're going to have to do in the future. This isn't for tonight's guidance. I think we really need to study what we need for storm drain district, and then how do we move forward with making sure the city is in compliance, the entire city is in compliance. So with that, I'm going to open the hearing for item 5.2-alpha, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District number 2006-01 Heartlands. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
Okay, I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 5.1-alpha?
Councilmember Barbara Martinez, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 5.2A.
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barbara Martinez and a second by Vice Mayor Uribe. Roll call, please.
Council members, Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I open public hearing for item 5.2-Bravo, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District number 05-01, Sterling Ridge. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve. This is Councilmember Fossey. I make a motion we approve 5.2-B for Bravo.
Okay. And a second?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll second it.
Councilmember Fossey, motion to approve item 5.2-Bravo and a second by the Vice Mayor. Roll call.
Council members, Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kathleen. LRA item 5.5. Local Redevelopment Authority Board Resolution number 2020-001, adopting the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2020-21.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to share my screen here.
We had it shared.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Okay. So bear with me. I'm going to be stepping you through the LRA budget as Melissa has put it together along with some help from Maricela. So as you know, and for those members of the public that may not know, the LRA was formed in April of 2006 with federal approval and have become the governing body of the Riverbank Industrial Complex since that time. We have been on site since April of 2010 and have been property managing and developing the specific plan and a reuse plan. And then as you all know, we were granted an economic development conveyance for the parcel A and parcel B, and are currently in the last stages of negotiation on a master developer agreement. We are currently administering the second remediation project on behalf of the Army. This started way back in 2015 with a grant in excess of $43 million for all of that remediation. I'll step you through a couple of items, but just generally, here are some assumptions that have been made this year. The Army will continue to pay a portion of the site operations until our master developer agreement is executed. And again, at that point, the property becomes the management and maintenance responsibilities become a responsibility of the master developer. And so therefore, the Army will not be kicking in for that any longer. ESCA, which is the environmental grant that we have, is to be completed during this fiscal year. And in a moment, I'll show you some slides about what's remaining, but very little work is left. We're really getting towards the end of that process. The finding of suitability for early transfer or faucet shall be completed this fiscal year. We're looking at first quarter of next calendar year. And the OEA grant to provide funding to the agency through June of next year. This is a critical grant that we get. Luckily, we're continuing to get every year, which pays for a lot of legal and other administrative charges that the LRA bears. Here are some impacts. However, let's say that we transfer the property to a master developer third, fourth quarter of this year. OEA will no longer be sending us financial assistance, but in the same sense, we won't need the same level, presumably, that we do as we're running the site today. The other anticipated impact is that the master developer agreement will be executed. There are financial payments immediately, well, at least they're being negotiated, but the concept would be that there are some immediate financial assistance to the LRA and loss of operation and maintenance once the MDA is executed. So the way it works is currently the Army kicks in a percentage of the cost of maintenance and like security and lighting and some other things at the site because there are ongoing remediation efforts. But once the master developer agreement is completed, obviously that funding goes away as well. However, the master developer picks up those responsibilities. Here are your funds. Fund 187 is leasehold, and you can see in your staff report that those numbers have improved this year, and that's a big thank you to Michael Riddell, Melissa Holdaway, and Carrie Pope for doing a lot of leasing out there of property that had been vacated or had never been leased. And so we're in a slightly better financial position this fiscal year than we were last. Fund 198 is the OEA grant, which I just covered. The ESCA grant, which we just discussed as well. And the ESCA one, I think, is very important to just remind everyone because of their big numbers. they're very limited on what they can be used for. It's really just to pay the environmental contractors to do the actual labor out there to clean the site. Here's the preliminary budget overview. Looking at coming in with revenues at about 5.1 million, less expenditures at 4.8. The balance would be about 279,000. The reason Melissa says here that it will cover the LRA structural deficit, she's referring to the end of this fiscal year. We're estimating about $100,000 structural deficit. So if we get through the balance of next year, we will cover that plus have some small amount of reserve money. And again, the idea with this property was to wind this down to a point where it's sort of no longer have any revenues or expenditures left when you transfer. Here's what's left of the ESCA. This is very interesting, I think. There's remediation of contaminated concrete. This is inside the superstructures. These are areas of concrete that have been tested and have tested positive for a couple different contaminants that are out there. So basically what they do is they saw cut them out, remove them, and re-pour. Press plates in line 8, that's related to some of the equipment. Soil excavation and stormwater retention basins, those are both primarily it's the PCB contamination, which was a contaminant in the paint they used out there. And so as over the years, as that paint was rained on and ended up making its way into the storm drain system, it eventually gets into your ponds. And so those are being remediated currently. In fact, if you drive by the LRA right now, they're out there with large equipment working on it. There's a lot of reporting that we'll continue to have to do over the next couple of years. And then a small portion of Melissa and Michael's time is covered by the. So overall, this is an improvement over last year. And if the assumptions that are listed previously come to pass, we may not have much of an LRA budget to even review next year beyond just sort of general reporting and closing out of the agency. We do expect that the LRA will continue to exist for a number of years because there will be the environmental will continue for a while, but all of the other responsibilities once we move to the master developer will hopefully evaporate. And we recommend approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sean, I have a question. When you just commented about the LRA budget for next year that we won't probably have very much, is that because the Army's pulling out more, or can you explain a little more?
Well, if the master developer takes over, all of the line items that you see in your budget that relate to rents and they relate to expenditures related to rents or all of the business components of running a kind of landlord operation out there are now the responsibility of the master developer. So none of those should exist for the city, either on the expense or revenue side. In addition to that,
so then, if I'm understanding you correctly, we need to have the master developers get things rolling as quickly as possible so that money, as it goes away, can be replaced, correct?
Well, it's actually, we will not only not have the revenues, but we won't have the expenditures either. So, but basically, the way your budget will look next year, if we do finish the master developer agreement, is essentially a couple of smaller line items that are related to specific projects the city is working on out there and the environmental, and that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
John, this is Councilmember Barbara Martinez. Did we ever finish up the siding out there that was contaminated? Is that project totally complete, or are we still working on some of it?
It is complete. We've had a couple, there's a warranty on those roofs and sidings, and we've had a couple of issues over the last couple of years to get little problems fixed out there. But in general, the project is all done.
Any other comments? All right, I open a public hearing for LRA item 5.5. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
Thank you, Annabelle. I close public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt LRA Resolution 2020-001 for the preliminary budget?
Councilmember Campbell motions that we accept the item as so stated.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez, and I second the motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Campbell and a second by Councilmember Barbara Martinez. Roll call, please.
Authority members, Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Uribe,
Yes.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Item 5.6, a resolution of the City Council adopting the preliminary fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget.
Mayor, I want to make sure I get her new title right. The Assistant City Manager and Administrative Services Director, Maricela Garcia, will give the report this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, I do have for you the fiscal year 2020-21 budget for your review. At the last City Council meeting, we did have an overview of the city's major funds that included the general fund, the gas tax fund, and the water and sewer operating fund. What you will see today will be all of the city's fund as a whole. We made no changes to the major funds, so you will not see any changes to those, but I'll still do a brief overview of them. And we will review the other funds that the city has as well, including system development fees and the and our housing and funds as well. So let me bring up my PowerPoint here. So fiscal year 2020-21, as I mentioned, we'll be receiving an overview of the general fund, some of our special revenue funds, our system development fees, housing, sewer enterprise funds, and the water enterprise funds. So our general fund for fiscal year 2020-21, we anticipate that reserve will start with a about $3.1 million in reserves. We're looking at revenues of approximately 9.9 with expenditures of 10.575. That leaves us with the reserve at the end of the fiscal year with almost $2.5 million or 25%. And as you'll recall, the city does have a required minimum reserve of 13%. So we are well above that minimum reserve when it comes to our general fund. Now, the issue that we have is that we do have a significant structural deficit. I wish I could say that structural deficit was due to major projects that we were allocating our reserve to, but it is not. At this point in time, that structural deficit is due to ongoing costs that the city will have from year to year. So our general fund revenues, we're looking at approximately $9.9 million. So that's a negative 1% change, which is not very much considering the major impacts that we will be seeing to our revenues related to COVID-19. Our general fund expenditures will decrease by 0.3% when compared to the current fiscal year. So some of the anticipated expenditure changes that we're facing, we do have the negotiated cost of living adjustments for our 2 bargaining units. We do have natural increases that come on an annual basis to our other benefits, including CalPERS, health, and workers' compensation. Our law enforcement contract does have their negotiated cost of living adjustments as well. And then we do have the added cost of the new deputies that we will be that we have added this current fiscal year and one that we hope to add in the upcoming fiscal year. Now, both of those positions are being funded by the Public Benefit Fund. We are reflecting 100% of our law enforcement contract within the general fund. So the Public Benefit Fund will be reimbursing the general fund for 100% of the costs associated with those two new deputies. Some outstanding items that both Sean and I are going to be considering when we bring forward to you a final budget in September. Future impacts of the state budget on general fund revenues, updated sales tax projections due to COVID-19. So at this point in time, on July 31st, all businesses will be submitting their first quarter reports. Based on those reports, our sales tax consultant will be providing us with updated projections for the fiscal year 2021 and future on the impacts of COVID-19 to that specific revenue source. Impacts to our PERS rates, which will come in 2 fiscal years due to potential losses that they will be facing this current year as a result of investment losses in due to COVID-19. Also, continuing with those unfunded state mandates, the mayor mentioned the possibility of a stormwater fee that would be citywide. Similar to our water and sewer rates, we will be required to prepare a study which will show all of the projects that we will be funding through this particular rate that will allow us to take this rate to all of our potential ratepayers through a Prop 218 voting process. They will have the opportunity to send in their protest if they do protest that fee. As long as we don't receive 50% plus one in protest, then the city council will have the ability to consider implementing that fee to all of our residents. We do still have a storm line on 7th Street that about 3 or 4 fiscal years ago had some issues as the side of the river was kind of washing it away. And so we have shored that up. At this point in time, it is stable, but we are starting to see some of the wear and tear on that patch that we did to it. So at some point in time, we will need to consider some more repairs to that storm line. East Side Master Plan, and then potential minimum wage increases in future fiscal years, which will affect our full-time wages as well. Now, our special revenue funds are those funds that are legally restricted by either state mandate, state legislation, bond covenants that we may have, loan covenants that we may have, or by city council resolution to be spent on very specific purposes. What we have for the examples here, we have the gas tax fund. We receive these funds from the state of California. They may only be used for street maintenance and streets capital projects only. So the city council doesn't have the ability to dictate that those can be used for general fund purposes, but we do have the ability to dictate how they are spent as long as it is within the boundaries of street related projects. A few others that we have on here: vehicle tow, workers' comp, and then the public benefit fund. So our public benefit fund was designated as a special fund by the city council, and you did designate very specific uses for those revenues that we receive through our current development agreements. Our public benefit fund is the one I'm going to highlight today for you, since we did not review it during the major fund overview. So our public benefit fund, for members of the public who may be watching, accounts for all of the cannabis related revenues. It accounts for the public benefit fee that we receive, the non-performance penalties and interest and fines, which we haven't had to issue as of yet, since all of our development agreements, they've been paying on time. And then any potential administrative cultivation permit fees that we have issued. Now, the funds can only be appropriated towards these types of expenses: public safety, code enforcement, service enhancements, and offsets to other city departments. For example, finance department, who does spend some significant amount of time having to count the revenues that come in on a monthly basis. So for the upcoming fiscal year, the activity that we'll be seeing is a beginning reserve of about 1.18, anticipated revenues in the upcoming year of approximately $804,000. Now, mind you, these revenues projections are based on the minimum amount that is anticipated from each of the development agreements. So we have a couple of dispensaries, or one dispensary who has been outperforming others and has continuously paid over and above that minimum amount. But at this point in time, we're being conservative, and we are just reflecting revenues that we know we will be receiving in the upcoming fiscal year, as it is the minimum amount that's been set. So the expenses that we have for you, as we mentioned, we will be funding 2 deputy sheriff positions from our public benefit fund. So that's an approximate cost of $300,000. We have an expansion to our camera project, looking to add some cameras in our downtown area. So we've initially set aside $35,000. I believe it may be a bit more than that, but we will make a revision during the final budget for any additional costs related to that expansion process project. And then we have the current lease that we have on the current camera system, which runs approximately $86,000 for both the lease and the communication system that goes along with it. So about $421,000 in expenses. So that'll give us an ending reserve of a little bit over $1.5 million for our public benefit fund. So this is all of the activity for all of our special revenue funds. Looking at a structural deficit of only $26,000, $26,400 to be exact. Now, mind you, when it comes to some of these special revenue funds, we anticipate that we will be running a deficit. The reason being is that we will typically collect revenues in advance in preparation for a project in the future. Some of these revenues come in from developers, or for example, we have SB1 funds that come into gas tax. Once we collect sufficient revenues, then the project is programmed and we go ahead and proceed with the project. So we do typically anticipate deficits within the special revenue fund. Our system development fee funds, so these are our funds that are legally restricted to be spent on items that have been approved through our system development fee program. They're paid by new development. We have storm drain fees that we collect, water and sewer fees we collect, police and general government. Some of the major projects that we have anticipated in the upcoming fiscal year include upgrades to several of our railroad crossings, including the one at First Street in Patterson and the one at Patterson near Terminal. We do have funds set aside for our Patterson and Roselle traffic signal, as well as funds set aside for the Roselle and Morel traffic signal. Within police and general government, we are setting aside an annual allocation to replace our animal control vehicle through the city of Oakdale. And then in addition, we hope to be able to complete our spatial analysis. That sort of has been put on hold due to COVID-19. And then we are trying to develop some sort of plan with how we can reasonably expand the space that's available to City Hall and for our departments. Within storm drain, we do have quite a few projects that we are planning to fund in the upcoming fiscal year, looking at an analysis of a couple of our storm drain systems. specifically at 8th Street and then our Candlewood storm drain system. We are looking at a project which will allow us to connect the OID line at Snedeker to storm drain, and then First Street Basin reconstruction. Now, the project that's at Snedeker with the connection to OID, that may have the potential of being funded by a developer, and then the developer would have the ability to claim a reimbursement for that particular project. But we do have the funding available within the upcoming fiscal year for that. And so for all of our system development fee funds, we're looking at a structural deficit of approximately $1 million. Looks scary, but as I mentioned with this special revenue funds, it's okay because we do collect these fees from developers, and we've been collecting them for about a 6 to 7 year period now, in anticipation of these projects in the future. So once we receive all of the revenues, then we go ahead and program the project. Our housing funds, this is where we account for all of the revenue that we received from the repayment of the loans that we have issued for our first-time homebuyer program and for our housing rehabilitation program. Loan repayments are received, and they can only be used to fund future loans. As per our City Council adopted guidelines, the loan terms are typically 30-year deferred loans. What we find, especially in this day and age where our interest rates are so low, we do have quite a few loan holders who have been contacting us since they're wanting to refinance their first mortgage. That will allow them to pay us off in advance of that 30-year deferment. And then we will have additional funds available to be able to turn around and loan new funds out. We hope that the housing market will continue to work to our benefit. We have applied for a variance to the State Housing and Community Development Department to increase the purchase price that they have set for Stanislaus County. It's currently set at $295,000, which doesn't give us a lot of opportunity since the housing market is pretty active at this point in time. The variance that we have asked for is for an increase to $314,000, which is the median purchase price that we've been seeing in Riverbank for the past 6 months. So we, along with the HCD department, made that calculation. So that's the variance we are requesting. We hope that that will be approved soon. So for all of our housing funds, we're looking at approximately $1,033,000 in expenditures, and these expenditures will be staff time, but primarily I would say about $950,000 of that isn't what we hope to be able to loan out. Now, I do want to make clear that these housing funds do not include any of the funds that we will receive from the consortium. These are current city programs, current funds that we have available in our city coffers. The consortium funds will come in separately, will be budgeted for separately, and will be accounted for separately from the city's current housing program. That is going to be by design so that we make sure when we do our reporting to the state that only the current funds that we have are what's being reported to the state. Our new funding gets reported to Stanislaus County, and then they in turn report to HUD and the state. Sewer enterprise. So sewer enterprise is comprised of not only our sewer operating fund. So our sewer operating fund is where all of our day-to-day maintenance gets paid from, and then our rate study projects get paid from. So all of the fees that we collect from our ratepayers go into our sewer operating fund. In addition to that sewer operating fund, we have a sewer debt service fund. This is where we pay for all of this, the current debt associated to our sewer fund. So that is the Schneider Electric project, is the only well, I take that back. The Schneider Electric project is approximately $3 million that we currently owe and that we're paying on a semi-annual basis. And then we have an what's called an SRF loan. That's a state revolving fund loan that we received back in 2000, and it allowed us to expand our wastewater treatment plant. That loan is actually going to be maturing within the next 2 fiscal years. So in 2021, we will make a final payment to the state for that loan. And then the only outstanding loan that we will have is the Schneider Electric project bond. We also have the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund. So this is a special fund that was designated by the City Council. Part of the fee that all of our ratepayers pay goes to this capital improvement fund, and it's available for emergencies. So if a sewer lift station goes down, if something happens at our wastewater treatment plant and it requires a quick response, we have funds available. I want to differentiate that from our sewer operating fund, because the operating fund just takes care of the routine maintenance. So we hope that through the routine maintenance that we will avoid these emergency situations. But obviously, you know, sometimes mechanics come into play and you just never know what's going to happen. So we do, City Council was very prudent in setting aside these funds on an annual basis to make sure that we're able to cover those emergencies quickly without having to come to council and delay the project. And then we have our sewer system development fee fund, which is paid by new development. So some of the major projects that we're recommending in the upcoming fiscal year is continuing to fund the sewer line replacements. Those are going to be throughout the city, particularly focused on the older areas of town. These are all funded through the rate study. And then the sewer debt service payments that we have upcoming for Schneider Electric and some internal loans that we have. So overall, for our sewer enterprise fund, we're looking at approximately $5.8 million in estimated expenditures. Now, water enterprise, similar to sewer, we have our operating fund. We also have the capital improvement fund, which is the same type of emergency fund as sewer has. We also have a water connection fee fund, which allows whenever a new connection is made to the city's existing system, the homeowner is required to pay a connection fee. And then our water system development fee fund. So major projects that we have recommended for the upcoming fiscal year is simply the funds that we have for major emergencies. We also have current outstanding debt for the water enterprise funds. That is with regards to our water meter upgrade project that was completed this fiscal year. Now, one of the reasons you're not seeing any additional capital improvements is that the majority of the capital improvements that we had projected for this current year were to be funded by our rates. March was the first billing that we had where we we resumed our consumption rate billing. And so we haven't been collecting those revenues for the past 3 or 4 fiscal years, which is not allowing us to complete those projects. What the City Council will need to review in the future is the timing of a potential new rate study to make sure that our rates continue to stay consistent with neighboring cities, as well as to make sure that we're keeping up with any CPI increases that we see. And then to be able to continue to fund some of these projects that we've had to delay. So overall, for the water enterprise funds, we're looking at estimated expenditures of $2.7 million. As I mentioned, future items that we'll need to consider for water is we will do a final budget revision to the revenues based on consumption experience. So currently, we've had 2 billings with consumption. Doesn't give us a whole lot of data to be able to give you accurate projections as to what we will receive, since we don't have a lot of history on what our residents' usage will typically average out to for an entire year. So at final budget and probably more at mid-year, we'll have almost a full year of data that will allow us to give you more accurate projections on that. And then possible mid-year revisions to address some of those delayed rate study projects that we may now have funding for. And so overall, this gives you the grand total of what the city manager and I are presenting to you for this upcoming fiscal year. As Sean mentioned, this is a preliminary budget, so this does include preliminary numbers with the information we have at hand. That is subject to change due to new projections that we receive as a result of COVID-19 impacts, any additional information that we receive from the state, any anticipated cost increases that we will see from some of our contracts that may have been as a result of COVID-19. Overall, we're looking at estimated expenditures of about $25.3 million for all of the city's funds. And with that, we are recommending that the City Council consider adopting the resolution tonight that approves the preliminary operating budget. This will allow us to begin expending funds as of July 1st, which is required by the state of California. And we will be returning to the City Council with a final budget in September when we have final revenue figures for our general fund. So I am available for any questions or comments on any specific fund that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Very detailed, very good. Before I open it up, I have just one comment. I have a lot, but one comment is that 2013, we had a very bleak projection. And because of your guidance, Maricela, and from the city staff, added the fortitude of the city council over the last 4 to 5 years, the decisions we've made has put us where we are today. We're in a very safe place. We could have been a ward of the county last year, and I never want to be a ward of the county. So thank you, your staff, and also the fellow council members on where we are today. So are there any other council comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question. Does any of the CARES money that we're going to get, hopefully, can that be plugged into some areas of our budget?
Unfortunately not. One of the restrictions that they have placed currently on the current allocation of CARES funding is that it cannot compensate for a loss of revenues. Now, it will cover some of the major expenditures we've had this current year in preparation of COVID-19. So all of the PPE that we've purchased, disinfectant, all of the safety glass that has been purchased, that will all be reimbursed to us. But unfortunately, we cannot cover revenue loss for it.
Do you have any, what amount are we, I think I know, but what amount are we supposed to get? Do you know?
So we are lucky in that the state has decided to use 2017 numbers for our allocations, which means that Riverbank will receive a very specific allocation because at that point in time, we were not in the consortium. Now we're only going to get $108,000 from that, but it's better than nothing. In addition, we will be receiving funds from the county, approximately $800,000. We will be returning to the city council at the second meeting in July. in order to discuss that particular funding, because we will need to develop a plan that we'll submit to the county for the use of it.
Okay, thank you. I just want to compliment the mayor on a great letter that he wrote to the county supervisors. I thought you did a good job, Mayor, stating what they didn't do right. They have 96 million, and the population roughly of the county is 1/5 of the total population of this county. 4/5 of the population is in the cities, but the county is keeping 4/5 of the money and only distributing roughly 1/5 of the money to the cities. And that terribly upsets me. And I thought the mayor did a great job of, standing up for us. Good job, Mayor.
Well, thank you. And the point of the email to everybody, I blasted it out to the world, is to don't tell me what you're going to give me. Tell me what you did. And they can't tell me what they did. They're going to continue to pay rent at hotels for the homeless. Why not build a homeless facility? Get rid of that. You no longer have to pay the rent. But anyway, thank you very much. I did get a little stinging heat off of that. Are there any other council member comments?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. Marisela, just for clarification on the public benefit fund, it mentioned the 2 officers line item. Is that included in the 19 that we'll be discussing in item 6.1? Or is that officers number 20 and 21?
No, this is one of them is included in the 19. Okay. The subsequent one is in process.
Got it.
So we have requested it to the county, and then they will provide us with updated budget figures. We're just providing the funding at this point in time.
And that additional position is the one that we've all discussed individually, which is that community resource officer position.
Thank you, Sean. And then just a comment for council. One of the expenses that kind of concerns me is still that CalPERS liability. I think it's not going to go away. I think it's actually just going to get worse. So I would like to see us as a council be a little bit maybe proactive and set aside. I know it's going to be a risk, but set aside 200,000 in a fund, and that way we're working on the problem, the liability that we're going to have. So if council's interested, maybe we can discuss that in the near future.
With that, Vice Mayor, we have discussed once with the labor groups, and we need to go back and figure out what we're going to do to establish a fund just like that, as per the council guidance 18 months or 3 years ago, was it, Marisela?
2 years ago, I believe.
I think I have a short memory.
So what we can do is when we bring forward a final budget, Sean and I can make recommendations on what we believe we can comfortably suggest that you set aside.
And we need to do that with the labor groups too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the other component is that Vice Mayor Uribe touched on is that I think it's time. We've discussed the section or the 115 trusts a number of times, and perhaps this year, when we're in a year where we have a little bit more reserve than we normally do, it's time to actually act. And even if it's a token amount in the grand scheme of how much we actually owe, at least it establishes the account and maybe even a practice of doing so.
And then try looking at, for each year that we owe above and beyond what we're paying, if we can set aside that amount, the above and beyond, for each year that we can do that, that will help us, and we'll get a better return than CalPERS can dream. That wasn't funny. That's serious, Marisela.
I certainly have had better luck than they have.
Any other comments?
Yes, Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I had a comment about code enforcement. I hope that in our final budget that we do take a look at increasing our code enforcement team, because I think that they could help us out in a lot of different ways as we look at the illegal grows that are inside homes and so forth. And I also think that, well, I had a question. So with the public benefit, the camera downtown expansion project, the cameras that we want to put up in River Code, is that part of a camera lease, or is that going to be part of, the camera process that we have right now going on? Or is that included, or is that going to be a new budget line item?
That's included as part of the camera lease, since we're looking at implementing that now.
And Councilman Barbara Martinez, just to kind of expand a little, the camera system that's the $35,000 budgeted item is for the police department, City Hall South, and then a number of cameras that will sort of look down the public right of way along Stanislaus and into the plaza. And the difference between those cameras and our lease is that we are going to actually purchase that system and own it because it's a little different than the LPR system, and it makes sense for us to do so.
Okay. Before I open it to public comment, for COVID expenses, also, Sean, your time, 40% goes to the LRA, but 40% has to go to COVID. My, whatever I get, should almost totally go to COVID-19. And there's a lot of other that you have to take a look at, those who may be in isolation. So be very generous in what you're spending or claiming, because I'm being told on the national level that everything that's related to it, a phone call to actual purchasing, or even the investigation for purchasing, must be accounted for in a broad sense to be reimbursed. And I'm not saying go beyond anything that is ethical, because we are probably one of the most ethical cities, but I want to make sure that we capture every possible dollar. The county is going to take away everything we get with this next round. The cities will be dealt with directly, and you can use it now for lost revenues if it pans out. We can get anywhere between $2 million or to $8 million from this new Heroes, and $2 million is low, but that's for lost revenues, and that can be for special projects. And as that goes forward, we need to take a look at that. I also want to make sure that as we move forward in development, that we are putting monies towards the improvements of the wastewater treatment plant. That's something that we haven't done in the past, and we want to make sure that we do that in the future. I'm sure the quarry has paid up, but if they haven't, let's make them pay up. For the Riverbank Police Services, you have a COLA built in at 3%. We're not going to get to a 3% COLA this year or this next year. We need to make sure that if it is going to be a COLA base, that the maximum, just like our, I know it's too late, but just like our maximum allowed for the fire assessment is 3%, but it can't exceed what the COLA is. I think we should take a look at that. If it can't be this year, in our next one, make sure that we protect the city. I'm not sure, the sheriff is ethical. I'm not certain about the BOS. But comments before I open it up? No, seeing none. I opened the public hearing for item 5.6. Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
I would have thought Sheriff Dursky would have commented on me. All right, then I close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the preliminary budget?
Mayor, before you do so, I just wanted to mention one other thing that was brought up by a couple council members I spoke to this week. We had been looking at, as you know, the council kind of gave some direction to Sue to. We rented a couple of electronic signs to put out by Jacob Myers Park on trailers that sort of explained if the park was closed or where you go to park and all of that. And it got around, we started thinking about it a little bit more, and we realized that the city years ago had a couple of trailers that were electronic signs that became really useful at the park and on water projects and street projects, just when you need to be able to move something mobile to get some information out to people. And so Sue Fitzpatrick and I have been doing a little bit of research on those types of signs. And I talked with, I think it was Councilmember Campbell and maybe Barbara Martinez about the idea of purchasing one under the public benefit fee program for this year. They run about $13,000 to $15,000, and it's something that really every department gets some use out of. It falls under the budgetary authority I have, but I just kind of want to mention it for council because if we're able to get a good deal on that, we're going to probably move forward and make that purchase unless there's any major concerns.
I have no problem with that, but I was hoping that in item 6.2 we were going to be able to discuss the signs, because I would prefer, if we're going to waste time with companies that go hibernating when you ask them hard questions, that maybe we could do a colored graphic mobile signs. And I would like to discuss those type of items under the electronic signs and not be stuck in the mode of this is the only sign we're going to buy, when we could expand it to put out the information that we need. And if we could have, anyway, that's for item 6.2. But thank you for that input. All right. Did I get a motion and a second on an item on the preliminary budget?
Not yet.
Not yet? Well, I'll move that we accept the preliminary budget.
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the preliminary budget by the mayor and a second by the vice mayor. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Unmute, please, Cindy.
Yeah, I lost my screen. Sorry. Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes, please.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, now we're getting into new business. And we're now at hour 2 and plus. Item 6.1, a resolution of the City Council approving a law enforcement services agreement with Stanislaus County for 1 July 2020 through June 30, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll share my screen here. Okay. Since we've been through many items, this will be brief since we workshopped this last meeting. But as you are aware, effective the end of this month, our agreement with the Sheriff's Department expires at the end of a 4-year contract. This will put us into a new 4-year contract. We do have an extension that has been, I've agreed to for 3 additional months. Some of the other contract cities we're still working on approval timelines for this, but we had workshopped it, so I agendized it because why put off till tomorrow what you can get done today? I'm not going to go through in detail all of this. This is generally what we discussed last meeting. We've been in a relationship, law enforcement service relationship with the county SO since 1995. Prior to that, the city had Riverbank Police Department, and they provide all the appropriate law enforcement duties. You can see there the long list of different additive services that we get from their department at no additional cost. We're finishing up a 5-year agreement, and over the last 5 to 6 months now, we've been spending negotiating their updated agreement. They're generally the same as previous. There's been some small legal changes here and there. There have been, obviously it's actually really a very simple contract if you read it. For the complexity of the service they provide, the contract is really only about 15 pages long, and we essentially pay for the actual cost of personnel, equipment, and services. One of the things I didn't mention last time, which is a nice additional benefit, is we do not get charged for the traditional overhead that you would have in a normal police department. Those are things like insurance, HR, background investigations, et cetera, IA, et cetera. We are able to sort of make use of those things that the county SO already does and reap those benefits here with our department. Key issues we discussed this year were the timeline for the addition of deputies is always an issue. I think both the sheriff's office and here locally. I will say that it does seem like, because the sheriff's department, I'm hearing, is almost fully staffed in terms of approved positions, that our ability to bring in new personnel will possibly be accelerated compared to the general year-long wait that we had received in the past. And obviously for the city, a humongous component of this contract is control of costs. And it's the one concerning aspect is that we have limited ability to truly control those, because labor negotiations are the primary driver of cost, and those are conducted at the county. I will say that I think the Sheriff's Employee Association, Deputy Employee Association is coming up on a new contract. I have not heard any detail yet as to what those terms will be. At this point, I would say that most agencies are taking a fairly conservative approach, just given the financial situation that we're all operating under. And then some operational administrative matters, how we handle certain things that come up here and there. Here is the general budgetary information. It's located in your staff report, the same as we discussed that during the last meeting. We already discussed this during the workshop, but this is some language that was included to allow for some flexibility and staffing shortages should the sheriff's department have any kind of critical needs they need our assistance with in terms of allocating staff out there. And then the chief appointment term, which we also discussed. So I did get a question, and I think it's worthy of some discussion as we do additional analysis related to council policy of staffing goals for officer ratios per population. And I think that part of that analysis is going to need to be doing a bit more of a deep dive with our chief into service response times, officer safety, making sure you have appropriate staff to ensure officer safety, and then crime trends and things that we're trying to accomplish with regard to law enforcement, and whether there are other more creative ways to provide additive service. An example of that is our camera system gives them tools that may allow us to may allow an officer to more efficiently do his job or her job. So I do think those are discussions that we need to be having and have council sort of weigh in on as we move forward and make decisions each and every year on how we want to continue to staff Riverbank Police Services. And so I would say that needs to be a priority or should be discussed by council as a priority moving forward. But other than that, I would recommend approval of the law enforcement services agreement. I would generally say that we appreciate the partnership, and they've been a very responsive agency to me, certainly. On the phone with us this evening is Captain Walker, who sort of is our liaison over at the Sheriff's Department for most of the management-related issues, and Brooke, who is the business manager, and she handles all of the budgetary work and most of this contract formulation. And they can answer questions or comments if you have any.
Thank you, Sean. Very well done. And again, I believe we all truly appreciate our association with the Stanislaus Sheriff's Department, a world-class organization with world-class training. Before I open it up to the council, you were talking about staffing numbers, and I think what we need to do is have a true out-of-pocket discussion on it, because we are, if you take a look at who we have available, we have, if you have 1 to every 1,000 officers per capita, we're at 56% manning. Chief, I love you, but you don't count. And a couple others don't count either. Those are your sergeants. So we don't have the numbers that a lot of the other cities have. Some cities have 1.8 to 2.6 officers per 1,000, with the average in the United States of 2.5. I know we're going to talk about how we going to look at this later on tonight, but I'm comfortable with the work that is being done by the Riverbank Police Services with the response time in around the 3 minutes and 30-second time frame for average of all calls. Some are you're right there and you see it, and others is 6 minutes, but the average is great. And I commend your staff chief and you in maintaining those services. Again, in our discussions of, as we move forward in the cost of living, if you're going to charge me 3%, because I'm a contract city, then I would expect that 3% to go across the board for salaries and all the other expenses. If not, then I would like to go with what the regional cost of living is. But before we open it up to other speakers, is there any additional comments from the city council?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'd have to agree with both of you there. I do think that the officers per 1,000 metric should not be the only metric we use to staff our city, not just based on population. It should be based on need. There's a Center for Public Safety Management through the ICMA, and they capture data in a police department's CAD system. And I think we should have an evidence-based practice, so we're not over-policing or under-policing our city. And I think it's something that we could fund through our public benefit fund. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Now we can say okay. All right. Are there any other comments? How about from Sheriff's Department Personnel, Brooke Freeman? Captain John Walker? You don't need to speak if you don't. Okay, one quick question before I open the public public comment. 911. It seems we're paying a lot for 911 services. And as we're doing any type of I want to say study or whatever we're going to do with the ICMA, let's look also at our 911 services. I know we use them, but I believe we need to take a look at renegotiating the cost. It's extremely high, although it is a benefit across the board. And if it is more fire than it is police, I'd like to see Consolidated pick it up. I know they want us to pick up some of their costs, and I'm not willing to do that.
Mayor, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, Mayor. This is Captain Walker at the Sheriff's Office. Good evening.
Good evening. I called and you weren't around, so I went on.
We had to wait until we were allowed to be unmuted. We weren't given mute controls.
Okay, I didn't control that, so
yeah. So Brooke and I are here. We have no additional comments outside of what we heard from City Manager. That was a great presentation. We're just here to answer any questions that council or the community may have for us.
Well, thank you for making yourself available. Are there any additional council comments? Annabelle, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt resolution?
Councilmember Campbell would like to motion that we adopt resolution 6.1.
All right.
Councilmember Fosse seconds that.
All right, we have a motion to approve item 6.1 by Councilmember Campbell and a second by Councilmember Fosse. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Sean and Chief and also Captain Walker and Ms. Freeman, thank you very much for being here tonight. And we continue our long history together. Thank you. Item 6.2, electric sign update, discussion, direction.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I know this is we're getting into hour 2.5, so I'm going to make this very brief. And I know that there has been some frustration with regard to this project. I think I can, adequately say that on the city council level, certainly at the staff level, and probably on behalf of our partner, Valley Outdoor Sign. So very briefly, as you're aware, we've been in the process of trying to develop a large electronic sign at the waterfall on Atchison-Patterson 108 highway. The project was approved by the city council. It immediately sort of hit a number of delays relating to detailed engineering issues that I'm not going to go into detail about, but let's just suffice to say that there were water lines under this property, and the siting of the pole for this very large sign it got incredibly complicated. They secured that issue. We then moved on to another issue with regard to power. In the midst of all that, COVID-19 hits, and this business, Valley Outdoor Sign, was deemed a non-essential business. So there was little that could move forward at that time. And so the project languished for about 60 days in that time period. And then as things started to open up, we were contacted by the sign company, and they had uncovered another issue, which is that the power point at this property initially had looked like it was sufficient, but the power actually is a cycling power piece of equipment that feeds the waterfall, and there was concern that they had that this very, very expensive sign they would construct would not be warranted because of the way that the power is brought there. So the next bit of news we received was that PG&E had told them that it was minimally going to take a year to pull power across Patterson Road to this site. And so Sue, Donna, and myself had scheduled a meeting with these folks, and we had all sort of resolved ourselves that they brought up a few different alternatives that were non-electronic, and we had resolved ourselves that we were simply just going to have to move on from this project. And I had already started working on a city-owned, smaller-scale electronic sign out on Patterson Road and the canal on the west side of town coming into town to get some type of electronic sign up, even if it wasn't the big, impressive one that we had worked on here. Now, so I'm moving forward with that. We're getting ready to go to the agenda last week, and I get a phone call from Valley Outdoor Sign, and they say, we have good news. We have been contacted by our sign manufacturer saying that if we agree to pay a little more, they will warranty the sign. We will commit to the city, if the city council will give us the opportunity to cure this, that they will have the sign up within 120 days. Essentially today, and all of the same business provisions apply. In addition, they've agreed to front the money and install the sign, the city-owned electronic sign out on Patterson Road, the west side of town, which would go on that welcome to Riverbank kind of monument as you're coming into town. It would replace a static sign that's already there, and at a cost of somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. And they have basically said that they would be willing to negotiate some sort of offset to the revenue they pay the city to make up for that. But essentially, their offer is we will give you both signs, and the short-term sign that will be out on Patterson Road, that can move forward immediately, because again, that will be a sign that's only for city use, no private advertising, none of that. So only for city use. And then the revenue and all the other components with regard to downtown promotion on the big sign still apply. So I told them, there's a lot that's changed with regard to this. The council's really wanted to see something move forward here. I'm going to have to go back and get a little direction on this item. My recommendation generally would be that I don't think there's much to lose from giving them the opportunity to cure this during that time frame, because it gives you the ability to get not only a city-owned sign paid for up front, and then we work out some sort of sharing detail in their original agreement, as well as the original electronic sign that you had originally wanted. This one will be one-sided, and it will face Patterson Road. The same provisions apply as previously accepted. So they actually have an issued building permit for their sign, and so the only thing that's left is a Caltrans approval, and off they go. So if council was willing to give them this opportunity to try to fix this issue, they've committed to the 120-day period. And so I wanted to just give you that opportunity to make a decision on that, and we'll move forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments, questions? Well, I'll start then. I'm not happy with the company. I'm sorry. It's been, Louise, how long has it been since we gave direction? About almost 2 years?
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning of your term, we've been looking at this. And we're no closer than we were 2 years ago. My thoughts on this is, thank you for trying to give us something that doesn't cost that much, and you're going to overcharge us. I took a look at mobile LED graphic signs. They're a lot cheaper than what they're proposing, and they're mobile. But they're not as grandiose. But what do we need? If we say, let's continue with the company, I think we're going to have more problems. They've had problems. I think they were self-imposed. Yes, they had some health-related issues, but then they keep falling into a reason not to go forward. They were a construction company. Construction companies were not excluded, and they were essential. Communication to us is essential. So we're no closer today than we were when we authorized it. How long ago, Sean? A year? 9 months?
Yes.
So, I don't have faith and confidence in that. Can we get something in 120 days? Maybe. Can we go look for something that may be a little bit more along our lines of keeping it a small sign, mobile, where we can put it in River Cove, we can put it along 108, we can put it along Oakdale Road, Patterson Road, Claus Road, in front of Darlene's house. I mean, anywhere. It just seems like I think, and these signs are, as I said, mobile. Are they palpable? Yes, they are. Someone can come on, hook it up, and drive away with it. Put a GPS on it, and then we got the sign back and a fine. But I'm not certain I want to remain with this company. I think that we go in earnest looking for an independent, someone else who can give us more of a mobile type of a sign.
Well, Mayor, just a quick thought there. If the council was interested in the concept of a couple higher end mobile electronic signs, so this would be nicer than the just traffic ones you see, something a little higher end. That's easy. I mean, those are available, and there's no requirement for any engineering or any of that stuff. We just go bring you a couple of options and what the cost is, and you allocate the money and we purchase them.
For that, those not only are they traffic, but they're also can communicate what we need to do. We missed out on a lot of PSAs on the COVID or state of the city or a lot of the Christmas parade, all the other things that we had. We missed out on doing all that advertising. And then with Sue and trying to get her community groups together, we had virtually no outside signs saying anything. So I don't think we're going to get a delivery from this company. I think you already told them no. I think that's our answer, and that let's come back with some more creative ideas. My opinion, I have 4 other people that can make up their own minds. But a mobile one can go wherever we want it to go. A static one, yes, we'll have a lot there on that one curve, but I don't know. I was willing to give up some of the aesthetics of the waterfall for the sign, but with all the problems we're going to have, probably in a couple of years, the warranty, a couple more years from now, I don't know what to expect. So, and if you take a look at what the schools have, they have some pretty nice signs that would fit very nicely for a lot less money than we're being offered here. My opinion.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I don't like the look of the mobile signs. And one of the reasons I'm for the tall sign is if we have events happening all the time and you have a sign that's in a stationary position, everybody in the city knows where to go and say, you know, I know they're doing something this weekend. Oh, let's go by that sign and see. If you have a mobile sign, they don't know where to go to find it. The one week it'll be at the fountain. The next week it'll be in River Cove. The next week it'll be on Oakdale. I like having a sign that's stationary so that all of our citizens know, hey, everything's going to be advertised up here. This is where we can go. I don't really like the look of the mobile. I think it's cheap, personally. I know we do it for out on Oakdale, but I really think we need to try to find a different company. I agree with this one, no, but a different company that will do some kind of deal to keep a big sign that everybody can go to.
Okay. Cindy, if you take a look, and I'm not disagreeing with you, that those are valid points, but if you take a look at some of these mobile signs, they're very high graphic, just like you would have. They are large, and they can be interactive with a computer system to change. And what I was using River Cove as, you're being watched. Don't urinate on the sidewalk type of things, where you could catch the weekend that are just tearing that neighborhood apart. But you could buy, in my opinion, several for city use only for the cost that you're going to go for one large one.
But then you have to worry about somebody trashing it or putting graffiti across it or somebody, breaking it. I mean, what about that? With a tall sign, you don't have those worries. And I totally understand River Cove, and I think that's why we're doing the cameras down there. But I think we need to look at what's going to be the maintenance cost, what's going to be the cost if it gets broken and replacement, compared to another company that will do the tall sign. How much is it?
Well, maybe Councilmember Fossey, maybe what we'll do is we'll bring this right back and show options of, who knows, it's like when we go to those league conferences, there's always new technology and things out there that are, and so we'll give you a couple options, and we'll focus more on this being a city-driven effort. Because remember that the attraction of this other concept was this was at no cost to the city, and perhaps we've come to the conclusion that we're just going to have to pay for a sign to use. And so I think we can bring you back a suite of options, and it's a different scenario when it's a city-owned sign, because again, we wouldn't be doing private advertising on that, just for city-related functions.
I'd like to see if there's other sign companies out there that do this, though. I mean, there's several on 99. Maybe we could talk to a couple of cities and see what they're doing. Okay, thank you.
So, Sean, you're telling me that there will not be a sign, electronic sign that says no illegal fireworks, huh? Is that what you're telling me?
Not this year.
Well, no, we don't have that, Darlene, but we do have, I think we still have some rented electronic signs, so maybe we can plug those in, but you will see some very, very bright green banners that are already hanging around town.
Another PSA moment missed. Vice Mayor, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was actually kind of on the fence on this one, but then the mayor's right. The timeline, by the time it's up, it's going to be about a year and a half. So every time I drive by, see the waterfall, I'll be reminded that took a year and a half to do. I would like to see a digital sign at the entrance on the west side of Patterson. I still think we should go that route. I do like the mobile signs also, as long as they are the upgraded digital ones. And again, I've been to the conferences. I've seen them with Sean. They do have new technology coming out all the time, and they're reasonably priced. So I would like to see those also.
Councilmember Campbell.
Yeah, I can go either way. I just want the signs done quickly. It's taking too long to get where we're getting. Let's do what'll get done. Do it the most efficiently and be the nicest, but do it in a reasonable time. I have to say that I sort of side with the mayor. These guys have drug their feet. And I think personally, 120 days, if they're really serious, that's a long time. They could be able to do it quicker than that. So that's just my opinion. I can go either way. Let's just get the signs up.
Okay, so based on council feedback, and there were provisions in the agreement we had with them about timelines, which are well beyond now. I'll notify the company that the city at this time is going to explore other options for electronic signs, and so we won't be moving forward with the project at this time.
And they're willing to. They are also capable of submitting a bid as based on what we're going on.
Sure.
Let's not exclude them, although I think they've excluded themselves. And it takes a long time for city government to do anything. Jill Anderson taught me that, especially when nothing was getting done. Oh, government takes a long time. This is taking forever. So.
Understood. We will have your suite of options ready and the allocation for funding available to move forward at your very next meeting. And so we will not, and henceforth thereafter, we'll have signs and there will be no more need to talk about signs for a while. And that's, I don't think I need any other direction unless there's any other comments.
Okay. Annabelle, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak?
There's no one wishing to speak.
All right, so we don't need a motion, we just need some action. I guess that's motion. Item 6.3, review and discuss the local and regional Black Lives Matter protest events and consider a resolution affirming the City Council and the City of Riverbank organization's commitment to a community of equality that will not tolerate violence or disrespect of human lives.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And if I'm not loud enough, please let me know. I want to make sure I'm loud enough for everyone to hear. The mayor, along with a couple other council members, asked that there be an item to discuss generally what's happening in our country right now. And so I am going to do something a little unusual. Usually I read portions of my staff report and then generally guide the conversation that way, but not usually completely verbatim. In this particular instance, if you'll just humor me for 3 minutes, I'm going to read in totality the report, which is not all that long, and the resolution, because the language that I used was intentional, and I tried my very best to make it very clear with regard to what the council can consider as a resolution or edit it as you see fit. So here I go. The City of Riverbank, and I also like to thank City of Brian Whitemeyer, the City of Oakdale, who helped provide some language that I used from a report that he worked on. The City of Riverbank, along with cities locally, statewide, and nationwide, and in other countries, have in recent weeks experienced protests by members of the public outraged by the violent, brutal, and intolerable killing of George Floyd. On the evening of May 25th, 2020, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, George Floyd, an African-American man, died at the hands of 4 Minneapolis police officers. According to reports, one of these officers knelt on Mr. Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes while Mr. Floyd was handcuffed, lying face down on the street and begging to breathe, while 3 other police officers appeared to either assist or look on. The protests and subsequent discussion has magnified deep-seated issues of racism, racial injustice, and the criminal justice system, and the desire for change and reform in this country. In the weeks that followed, almost all cities in Stanislaus County had various types of protests, candlelight vigils, and marches within their respective jurisdictions. In general, the vast majority of protests have been peaceful. However, in a few instances, a couple of communities regionally experienced violent or near-violent situations relating to protesters, and in other cases, interaction with anti-protest or counter-protest groups. On Saturday, June 6th at 11 a.m., a small protest was held in Riverbank on 3rd Street, across from the police station. In advance of the event, and out of an abundance of caution, city staff took appropriate precautions to protect city facilities as the scale of the protest and whether or not there would be counter-protesters present was unclear to us at that time. The protest was completely peaceful, with about 10 to 12 individuals attending, some of whom brought along their children, and after a short march in the downtown area, the protest disbanded around 1 p.m. On June 9th, at the June 9th City Council meeting, during council comments, statements were made regarding a desire to see an agenda item placed on an upcoming agenda, giving the council the opportunity to discuss this situation. Additionally, staff worked on a draft resolution for council to review that reflects the values of the city of Riverbank as an organization related to inclusion and equality, while at the same time denouncing all forms of hate. Resolutions of this type are sometimes criticized as being ceremonial and without real teeth, but should council desire to approve the resolution could serve as a first step in an ongoing effort to continue to uphold the council and organizational values as guiding principles, and further as a starting point for other appropriate council actions. Furthermore, the resolution can serve as a definitive statement that the city of Riverbank does not tolerate or condone any type of hateful mistreatment of others, violent or otherwise, that damages or devalues human life. And I'd just also like to say that the resolution was written to outline a number of our organizational values that have already been stated in the Riverbank strategic plan, such as integrity, respect, collaboration, customer service, transparency, innovation, diversity, and responsiveness. So I'm gonna in the resolution, the first 6 whereases are generally related to the staff report I just read, so I'm not going to go through those verbatim, but you can read those. I'm going to read the declarations below that. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Riverbank hereby declares the following. 1. The City Council of the City of Riverbank organization recognizes the horrific and unpardonable actions that led to the death of George Floyd. 2. The City Council recognizes that all individuals come from a common thread as a single human race and call on our country as a whole to recognize and understand the value of human life. 3. The City Council fully supports and strongly endorses peaceful unification throughout this country, opposing this and similar inexcusable acts of violence against persons of color and those of different ethnicity, religions, sexual preferences, beliefs, or expressions, both now and in perpetuity. 4. The City Council commits to the community that the City of Riverbank organization does not and will not tolerate nor accept in any way the violent or disrespectful treatment of others that devalues human life and or degrades basic human dignity, nor will our organization accept or condone any form of race-based hate. 5. The City Council calls upon its residents to join with our organization in reflecting on the events leading up to the protests and continue to educate ourselves as a community for ways we can improve. 6. The City Council shall use this resolution and stated values therein in future decisions they make for the good of all Riverbank. 7. The City Council reaffirms its commitment that Riverbank is a community of equality and diversity. And 8. This resolution shall be effective immediately upon adoption. So that is really the totality of the item. I could, pontificate more about personal and professional feelings I have regarding this situation, but I try to leave those feelings in the report and in the resolution. It's very important to me as the leader of your staff to have an organization that values equality and diversity and takes a stand. And that is what we have done. And I think that this is something that's reflective of that. And so I submit it to you for your consideration and any other comments or thoughts you may have.
Thank you, Sean. Are there any are there any council comments?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll go first. Sean, so thank you so much for how you worded the resolution. I was really proud to go over that and read it. So thank you for that. The city of Oakdale, so I did attend the Black Lives Matter protests, and our neighboring city, Oakdale, is going through some harsh criticism for both how they handled that Black Lives Matter peaceful protest and the wannabe militia events that happened over there. But I do have a couple questions though. We had several agencies supporting Oakdale Police Department during the Black Lives Matter event, and I want to know why some of the officers were in riot gear facing the peaceful protesters. If they were suited up, why were they not facing the counter protesters who were there initiating everything? The counter protesters charged at peaceful protesters. They swung at them. And I heard that they were even flipping off children who were in the passenger seat of their parents' vehicles who were driving by to show support for the Black Lives Matter. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that the OPD still has to answer. And I sat down with the chief after both events, and I have to say I'm so glad to have a chief. So thank you, Chief, for wanting that higher standard for our deputies. And the chief is demanding that from our officers for our residents. So thank you, Chief Reitner. We also talked about what defunding the police means, what it actually means, right? We do not want to eliminate the police department, but we both understand that our deputies are not mental health professionals. We need to take things off their plate that they're not trained to do and invest in professionals. So the goal of this movement is to rebuild the police department so we can rebuild the trust. The police are paid to protect, serve, and de-escalate. So I'll repeat that. They're paid to protect, serve, and de-escalate. So no, I don't think it's appropriate to be investing in tear gas, rubber bullets, and militarizing a police force. The ground is shifting. We all feel it. We see what's happening. Discussions should be about how we invest more in education, stable housing, community organizations, and those mental health services. Black Lives Matter. Racism is not going to magically go away, but it's been fueled by the leader of this nation who just this past week posted Nazi symbols and referred to the coronavirus this past weekend as Kung Flu. That's racism. We have locally here, we have Ted Howes running for a congressional seat who, as of just last week, took down even more racist comments. So we have to call it out as elected representatives of our city. So Sean, I'm proud of our diversity for this city. And for that reason, I'm fully supporting the resolution that you put together. Thank you for that.
This is Councilmember Barbara Martinez. Thank you for your comments, Vice Mayor Uribe. I just would like to say, I want to say thank you to those that were in the protests for Black Lives Matter in Riverbank. I heard you. I know your sentiments for why you were marching, and I just want to focus on a couple things about the Black Lives Matter movement. It has a focus for issues concerning racial injustice, police brutality, criminal justice reform, Black immigration, economic injustice, LGBTQIA+, and human rights, environmental injustice, access to health care, access to quality education, and voting rights and suppression. So you may ask, what does all this mean? Well, to me, it means that all lives matter, not just Black lives. I think our resolution is a good start in the right direction, but I also feel that our actions as a council in how we address the challenges where we can make a difference in a positive direction will back up the words in the resolution. And Sean, I also want to thank you for putting that resolution together, but I just wanted to focus on the Black Lives Matter because it means something to me also. And I just feel like we're heading in the right direction with the resolution, but our ultimate final decisions on how we handle matters as they come our way will back up the resolution. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell, first, I agree totally with everything that Luis and Vice Mayor Uribe and Councilmember Darlene Martinez said, so I won't repeat any of that. But I attended the march that they had in Riverbank. I was there for about an hour, and I mingled in the crowd and chatted with them. And the thing that I liked that I saw with the group that was doing it at the time that I was staying there, I had to leave to go to my son's birthday later, so I couldn't stay for the rest of it. But I applauded them and commented to them as I talked to them about they were just there demonstrating peacefully. They talked to me and they had no real anger in them. And they had their signs and they just wanted to support it. And that's the way protest should be, not breaking out and ripping things up and destroying property. So I felt very comfortable with them, and it was a pleasure to be there for the time that I was. And again, I agree totally with Vice Mayor Rigby and Council Member Darlene Martinez.
Guess it's my turn, huh?
You're next.
I'm really proud of my daughter. When you have a 16-year-old, you see things from a different view than someone who's years old. She asked a lot of questions and has a lot of comments, and it was really great to go in and talk with Chief Ridenauer with her. She was prepared to ask him questions, and they were very good questions, and she got answers that she was looking for, explaining, about the riot and the protests and why they were standing the way they were and everything, and that was great. I like the resolution. I agree with Darlene. I think that Black Lives Matter, and it's great, but I think we need to go a little bit farther. But I think this is a great start, and I'm proud of our city for handling it the way we are. Thank you.
Thank you all. I support everything that you have said. I want to go a little bit further on the Black Lives Matter. Ever since I was young, I've been involved with a lot of the social inequalities of Blacks, Hispanics, especially looking at the Farm Workers Union, United Farm Workers Union, and also growing up in the 50s and the 60s and the riots, and supporting a lot of the issues that were coming on up. You take a look at our history, we as a whole society brought slaves in here. Slaves have been part of our history since we've been human, since we could write. We had slaves. It's unfortunately that the situation from 1863 during the Emancipation to 1964 during the Civil Rights bill that was signed by Johnson, not much had really changed. If you look at 1964 and today's statistics, they are identical in the education, as you brought up, Darlene, the healthcare, poverty levels, and it is like Blacks are being funneled into ghettos or to areas where you won't get those services. Therefore, that's why the statistics are as great. And Darlene, even though you say all lives matter, I fully understand Black Lives Matter. When Kaepernick took the knee, it wasn't a disrespect to the flag. It is to bring attention to the racial injustice of Blacks. And it has been systemic, and it has been part of our history, and it has been accepted in certain parts of the country. Presidents have been KKK members. So I fully understand Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, yes. Black Lives Matter. We have to resolve this issue, and by this resolution, we're applying what we believe is acceptable actions to help the movement of the Black Lives Matter and applying it across the board. And that's what I believe this resolution does. And Sean, I want to commend you on your efforts on that. And the staff for taking up this type of a issue, as well as all of us on the council that are going forward with that. So with that, Annabelle, are there any public comments? Annabelle, I'm going to say there are none.
Mayor, there are no public comments.
Right. Thank you very much. Is there any consideration from the council?
Vice Mayor Uribe here. I'll make a motion. We approve item 6.3.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez, I second the motion.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Councilmember Barbara Martinez for item 6.3. Roll call, please.
Council members Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Staff comments?
I don't think there's anything I can add after that. So, not tonight.
Sean, thank you, and thank you for all your hard work. Councilmember Fossey?
Have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Campbell?
I just want to thank the Sheriff's Department for the great job that they've done down in River Cove during the past 2 or 3 weeks. Likewise, I think you're doing a terrific job with the illegal fireworks that have been set off recently. And just to let you know, I read an article today. This is nothing unique to Riverbank. It's happening all over the country. All the big cities are getting illegal fireworks. It's gone on. It's like everybody's going crazy. So I think we're on the right track to try to slow it down before it gets too bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barbara Martinez?
I am part of the CARES ad hoc committee for Stanislaus County. And what we've been doing is looking at the parameters of how the county can get funding to small businesses that were not able to get funding through the previous COVID-19 funding that was out there. The sale of Safe and Sane, fireworks starts Sunday, June 28th. Please remember, if you are planning a block party, which there probably will be a lot, because a lot of people will be able to get out and celebrate the 4th, or at least looking forward to doing that, you need to have a permit. And remember that no illegal fireworks are allowed because you can be fined. And I'm just wishing everyone a happy and safe July 4th. Please continue to wear your mask and do your duty with practicing social distancing. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll kind of echo what Councilmember Barbara Martinez just mentioned. Wear your face coverings to keep businesses open. I'm still seeing it. It's slightly improving, but we're still seeing uncovered faces out there. So please do wear those face coverings. Just a quick update on the Shaw meeting. There was a newly formed subcommittee that was formed. I'll be a part of that. We discussed a county strategic plan where members of this subcommittee will reach out to the other jurisdictions and kind of help them build out what their homeless plan is going to look like and how that's going to work towards the regional solution. This Thursday will be my day 2 of my mayors and council members executive forum. So looking forward to that. Learned a lot on day 1 and just a safe 4th of July for everybody else. And I'll see you guys then. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only item I'd like to bring forward, I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to. We had a violent act on City Hall South, which shows how insecure our buildings are. I was during the protest on the Black Lives Matter, and the efforts that we had to do just to secure a parking lot means that that parking lot has never been secure, and we need to do something about that. So in our future endeavors, Sean, if we ever have another strategic planning, I really would like to take a look at our spatial analysis, how we can keep the police safe and how we can keep City Hall safe, because one angry customer can cause a lot of damage. And I don't want to have that, at least not on my watch. So if we could address that in the near future. With that, we're going to go to a closed session. The public will have a limit of 3 minutes to comment on the closed session items as set forth in the agenda prior to the City Council LRA Board recession to closed session. Item 8.1, conference with real property negotiators. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property APN 062-031-005 through 007, agency negotiator Sean Scully, city manager, property negotiator Admetis Inc., under negotiation, price, term of payment, or both. Item 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 alpha, name of case, Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District versus City of Riverbank and others, DOES 1-20. Stanislaus County Superior Court case number CV 19-004402. Item 8.3, threat to public services or facilities. Pursuant to Government Code 54957, Consultant Riverbank Director of Emergency Services. Annabelle, is there any public comment?
Mayor, there are no public comments.
Okay, this public portion of the meeting has now concluded. The City Council and LRA Board will be going into closed session. A report on the closed session items will be made to the City Clerk, which will be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Anyone interested in receiving what was reported on the items may contact the City Clerk by calling 209-863-7198 or email cityclerk@riverbank.org. The July 14th regular City Council meeting is canceled. The next open meeting is on Tuesday, July 28th at 6 p.m. We now will adjourn for closed session. Thank you.